What's goody to any and everybody who may be listening? We're still talking about my promiscuous years, and we are in fact still in the neighborhood of Cinnamon Ridge. Okay, this was the first time where I ever encountered a male in that way, in a sexual way, by the name of JP. Okay, now I met this individual on the chat line, and at that time it was a phone chat line. Okay, so I got up with JP, and I already said what we did. However, it did not stop there with JP. Okay, JP and I kept in contact over the years, and he even introduced me to a couple of other individuals. Now, one of these individuals in question was his nephew. Okay, he went by the name of Mussolini. Okay, now there was an encounter with myself, JP, and Mussolini all together. This was a horrific experience to me. It most surely was. Okay, my anxiety was most definitely through the roof the whole time, even first getting into the car with him, to driving all the way to his house and things of this nature. And then what occurred once we got to the house with all this motherfucking dick and pussy and things of it. However, it is important to note that at this time I was not broken into. Like, I had not been penetrated yet. Although I will say that the nephew, Mussolini, attempted to penetrate, but now that was some searing pain that I felt at that time. Okay, just the whole experience, it being a threesome and everything. Also, let's go ahead and talk about, because I did get up with JP one more time with a different individual by the name of Tony. Okay, Tony. So let's go ahead and call our light sparks back from both of these encounters with JP and a third party. The first time it was Mussolini, and the second time it was Tony. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, any and all of my light sparks and soul fragments that got caught up within the midst of those threesomes or those encounters where I was young and, just didn't know what I was doing and was scared out of my mind. Those light sparks and soul fragments are released, are freed, are healed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay. It's also important to note that these individuals were connected. JP, which I would find out much later, was connected to Claude. And we're going to be getting back into Claude as well. Okay, but they were connected. They already knew each other. And again, like I said, this was a spider web. This was etheric courting, which drew to me my experiences through that spider web. Okay. So, okay, let's move on to Sandy Creek. Now, I gotta say that, especially at this time, I was not getting up with a lot of men because of I was hanging with the straight boys. I was also sort of battling with it. I was doing the work. I was transmuting the energies. So there would be times when I would not want to even look at it, where I would not want to look at, me being gay or me being this, or then I would try to be straight for a while, but then I would go back to my old feelings. I did that a lot. I would switch back and forth in between the two until the energy balanced out. So I didn't really have a lot of encounters. I do want to bring up this encounter though that occurred in Sandy Creek. Now this is important for me to mention. Okay. Now remember I was talking about Lo. Now I was talking about Lo earlier and how Sharita had stole that girl, man. Well, sometime down the line, after Lo had already gone and was out of the picture, I had met the nephew, or it was the cousin of Keisha, the girl who Sharita stole her man. I wound up meeting her nephew or her cousin, and his name JT. Not JP, but JT. Okay? So I wound up meeting JT, and I gotta tell you, like, me and JT, we most definitely did hit it off. You know, there was a connection there at first, but see, something happened, and you know, this was almost like a love at first sight type of situation. I most definitely, for some reason, I fell head over heels for JT. I gotta tell you that at this time he was, I ain't gonna say fine, but he was cute. He was very cute, and he knew how to dress, like he could dress. What I remember is the Jordans that he had on. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, we were up there, up in that room, me and JT. You know, we were playing around and things of this nature. And Sharita, though, unbeknownst to me, had came home early. So it was me and JT. We was up in that room and things of this nature. I forgot what happened, but I did wind up introducing her to him. Okay? And you know, me and JT had been talking about him coming over to spend the night and things of this nature. But see, when I brought this up to Sharita, she was like, hell to the fuck no. She cussed me out. I think she cussed him out too. In any event, she made it so that the boy did not want to talk to me ever again. And I didn't talk to him again until much later. Again, here go this Claude character. Okay? But I can remember after that, I was so devastated. Like, I was very devastated, and I was heartbroken, and I was crying like every day, all day for like a whole week, wondering what had went wrong. But see, this was her. She came on right down in the middle of my situation and disrupted it, because she didn't want me to have no type of love or anything like that. Okay, so she just disrupted that. I'm going to have to go ahead and call my light sparks back from that situation with JT. Now, I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, any and all of my light sparks, and soul fragments that got caught up, or they got lost, or that they got stolen, or was fearful and left, from that JT situation, from me feeling all of the emotions for JT and being cut off from JT like that, are released, removed, freed, healed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay? So, again, this was a neighborhood that was not that eventful in terms of me getting up with men, because I was, quote, straight or on the DL, and I was hanging with the straight boys. So I didn't have a lot of experience there. So, but, okay, let's get on down to the trailer park. This is when my meetings and things of this nature, my encounters with the men, pick up a few notches. Okay? We're gonna start out with Harlan. Okay. Now, Harlan was an individual that I met at around the age of 16 years old. Of course, he was already in his 40s or whatever, and he would come all the way from his neighborhood, all the way up near Mini City in Raleigh, to come to the trailer park, and of course, we engaged in a lot of things of this nature. But he was paying, of course. Although it is worth to note that he was a cheap trick, okay, and did not pay me my worth. Although it didn't, I mean, at that time I didn't even know my worth, but it goes without saying how these old ass men are predators, and they like young boys, okay. Now, me and Harlan stayed connected for years, and it's just time for me to call my energy back from that whole situation, those encounters back when I was a teenager. I'm calling it back. Okay, I decree and declare that any and all of my light sparks, any and all of my energy and soul fragments that got caught up in the midst of Harlan, dealing with Harlan as a teenager in that pickup truck when I would go out there and we would be gobbling meat and things of this nature, and he would be paying. Okay, any of my light sparks, energy, and soul fragments that got caught up within that, or they got lost within that, are released, removed, freed, healed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay? Let's go ahead and talk about my first time being penetrated, because this did not happen until we got into the trailer park. Now, this was a guy that came over to the house. I met this individual on, it wasn't a talk chat line. This was on the internet where I met this individual, and he came right over. Okay. Now, let's talk about I gotta talk about the penis, the way it looked. Now, he had a little short penis, which is why I thought that the situation was gonna be painless, but no, it still had that pain. But because the dick was real fat, but it was real short too. Okay, it's important for me to talk about that because I gotta get my light sparks back from that. That first sexual encounter, that first encounter of myself being penetrated by this person. I forgot his name, but it don't matter. I decree and declare that any and all of my light sparks, any and all of my energy and soul fragments that got lost within the midst, so that left me within the midst of that first sexual encounter, are released, removed, freed, healed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child, which is none other than myself. Okay. Now there was also this encounter. I gotta talk about this one. This encounter with a darker skinned, older man who came over to the house. I already had suspicions about this man, but at the time I was not able to speak up for myself. I was not really able to talk for myself like that. I was anxiety ridden and things of this nature. But there was this man that came over. I wasn't really attracted to him, but at the same time, them hormones, especially in a man body, is sort of different. But anyway, so we wound up doing something, and I just remember feeling icky after that. I felt icky for a while until it subsided. I don't really think it subsided. What I did was that I pushed it down into my body. So it's time to call it out. It's time to call them light sparks back. I decree and declare that any and all of my light sparks, any and all of my energy, my soul fragments that got caught up within the midst of that time with that man, and you know who I'm talking about, because I'm thinking about him right now, okay, be released, removed, freed, healed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay. Where we going next with this? Okay. There was also a guy who I met around this time by the name of Carl. Let's go ahead and talk about Carl first. Now, Carl, in some way, already knew Sharita. So, Carl, I invited Carl up over the house while Sharita was at work. And, you know, Sharita just had to come home on her lunch break. It was something about that etheric courting that caused stuff like that to happen when she would pop up and things of this nature. But anyway, she called him in the house, and she already knew him. Okay? But see, this is an individual that I dealt with for a while. There was never any sort of penetration that occurred, but there was a lot of playing around, a lot of meat munching and things of this nature. Now, because this individual had a motherfucking gigantic dick, okay, that shit won't going up in me. You hear me? Do you hear me? So it didn't, but I did deal with him for a while. And one of the things about this individual, he lied. Okay, was a liar. So let's go ahead and call my energy, light sparks, and any fragments that may have gotten lost within the midst of this individual. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, light sparks, and soul fragments that got caught up within the midst of Carl at any time during my stay in the trailer park, or even afterwards, because I kept seeing them afterwards too, be released, removed, freed, healed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay. Now let's go ahead and talk about where we gonna go next, because I'm gonna say the best for last. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the white men that I encountered. There was this one white man that I encountered while I was out there. And we were in the woods back there, up in them backwoods, playing around and things of this nature. Gotta go ahead and call my light sparks back from that situation. I decree and declare that any and all of my light sparks, any and all of my energy and soul fragments that got caught up, or that got lost up in the midst, or was abandoned in the midst of that particular white man where we were in the woods and things of this nature, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay? Now let's get into the next white man. Now this was a white man that I most definitely met off of the computer. You know what I'm saying? Now this was something that I won't really into, but I had to see whether I was into this or not. I had to see. Now this was Raunch, R-A-U-N-C-H. Now I went up over at the white man house, and there were all sorts of things going on that once I got there, I was like, oh no, motherfucking ma'am. Okay, now this took a lot of my energy, a lot of my light sparks. Okay, especially after the feeling of it, especially after it was all said and done. and the way he was talking to me. But this was the way that, because it was almost like BDSM, almost like that, very very raunchy and things of this nature. So let's go ahead and call our light sparks back from that. I decree and declare that any and all of my light sparks, any and all of my energy, any and all of my soul fragments that got lost in the midst, or that left me, that abandoned me, that was fearful in that moment of that encounter with that white man at his house down yonder, at his house, be released, removed, freed, healed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay. Now we 21 minutes into this. Okay, I think we got a couple more. We got to get to. Now, I also wound up meeting a dude named Tony. Now, this is a dude that I wound up staying in contact with for years following. Okay, this was an individual. He was pressed. This was an individual damaged. This was an individual who had a lot of baggage, and he wore that baggage on his sleeve. The way he would accuse me of doing this, that, and the third, when bitch I won't doing nothing. Okay. So let's call our light sparks back from Tony. Now this was a different Tony than the Tony I was talking about with JP though. Call our light sparks back from Tony. I decree and declare that any and all of my light sparks, any and all of my energy, and my soul fragments that left at this time, or that got lost in the midst of my dealings with Tony at any time, not just the trailer park, because again this was years. Any time after the trailer park or during the trailer park, any of my light sparks, energy, and soul fragments that got caught up with Tony in general are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay. Now, last but not least, also I'm going to say any other time that I may have forgotten that I did not mention during this transmission. If I forgot you, hunt them down, search for it, and remove my light sparks, remove my fragments, and bring them on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay. Now let's go ahead and talk about this individual. Now this is last but not least is Timothy Hartsfield. We're going to be talking about Tim. Now this was an individual on the motherfucking DL. Okay. Had a baby mama, had a baby. Okay. I met this individual when I was about 16 or 17 years old. Okay. And he came on down to the house. He came on down to the trailer where we were staying at, and he well, I got to say that, baby, I gotta tell you that, now, see, this was an individual that was full of shit. He was full of shit. Okay, he was a liar. He was just too freaky. Too freaky. Always wanted to be laid up naked, and for me, I didn't like that. I ain't had nothing to talk about but sex and whatever other lies he was telling. Okay. But anyway, before I really got to know him and knew that about him, baby, he done came over to the house and slayed my cakes right quick. Now he I gotta admit though, he slayed them. He did. He slayed them. and it was it wasn't bad. I'm just gonna say it wasn't bad. It was not bad at all. He knew what he was doing. Okay, and had me all wide the fuck open. And now, baby, I gotta tell you, the next day I was calling his motherfucking house. I was calling his motherfucking phone with his baby mama right there with him while he played me. But he was just whispering all sorts of sweet nothings into my ear. And at this time also he was younger. He was and cuter as well. So I wound up, still dealing with this individual after that as well, for years. Not really that sexual as the years went on, that faded, but I kept seeing him or kept, talking to him at times. We would catch up and have a kiki and have a cackle. So anyway, let's call our light sparks back from Timothy, from the whole situation, from that time when I was up over his house too, up over there off of Garner Road, over there, where I sure enough took that bottle of damn liquid Vicodin. I did. So we're gonna have to go ahead and call our light sparks back from all of this situation that happened with Timothy. I decree and declare that any and all of my light sparks that got caught up within the midst of the first encounter with Timothy Hartsfield, okay, any of the encounters afterwards, that bottle of liquid Vicodin, okay, all the lies and everything, all of my light sparks and soul fragments that got caught up within that, released, removed, and brought on back home to none other than the mother, the father, and the child. Okay. Now, I think I'm going to leave this right here because this is already long enough. I'm going to leave this right here. But I think, and now we're done with the trailer part. We're going to be moving on. But I think that was pretty much the bulk of what I needed to get out. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.